My style of leading is very much around never ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself.
Being in such a well-established organization, obviously there's going to be resistance when it comes to moving away from legacy systems. So how do you approach change management?
One is you really need a trustful relationship with your implementation partner. It's really all about the quality of the people you've got.
Was that the one kind of game changer of a project that you did, or is there one that really stands out?
Yeah, so I mean, undoubtedly that was the FSS program. This peak, there would have been over 200 people involved in that program.
Looking to the future, emerging technologies, let's say for AI, which you just touched on, how important is that in Canada Life Europe's digital strategy going forward?
Oh, AI is absolutely fundamental to our future of the company. Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you learned earlier in your career?
Trust your gut more, I think, and be prepared to take calculated risks. That you regret the things that you don't do, I think, more than the things that you do.
Pat, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much.
Great to have you on.
Thank you indeed.
We do have a lot to unwrap, but I guess for the listeners who don't know, you are a CIO with Canada Life Europe.
That's correct, yeah, since 2014, yeah.
Very good. And let's go back to the start for the listeners. What drew you initially into technology?
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting journey for sure, yeah. I actually started out in engineering rather than IT. Met many people in technology over the years that have had a similar journey to myself. I actually graduated in civil engineering in UCD back in 1986, and that was the heart of one of the many recessions that Ireland has experienced then. So I had to move to the UK. I remember actually there was a article on the front page of the Sunday Press around that time where it had our class standing up on the front steps of the National Concert Hall, and there was the article was talking about how of the 52 people that were in the class, I think only 4 of them at that stage were still in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, so I moved over to the UK, worked for a short time as a civil engineer, but it was very clear that engineering was certainly not at that stage, was where the opportunities were, and IT was. So I moved over to IT. That's a pretty well trodden path. I'm still very interested in physical engineering, buildings, and all that kind of stuff. And there's a strong linkage, obviously, between engineering and IT, particularly around structured problem solving, and a lot of commonality. And so initially I moved into British Airways and their IT department, absolutely enormous IT department in British Airways, one of the biggest in the UK. And that was an interesting time working in IT because it was before a lot of ERP-based systems and things like that. So it was still very much sort of building stuff from scratch. So working on building a lot of the engineering systems there. So that was really fantastically interesting. That was about tracking all of the overhaul of the aircraft coming in, like all the parts going on and all the parts going off, and going through the workshops and everything, and being maintained. I mean, just the degree of responsibility involved in those systems, and the degree of money involved in those. Obviously, billions and billions of euros worth of aircraft and parts and everything. Never mind the responsibility associated with those systems. I remember, I remember one particular statistic from around that time, from like 30 odd years ago, that like one RB211, which is an engine, rotor blade at that stage was like £10,000, and that was like there'd be thousands of them on one engine.
Yeah.
So obviously tracking those effectively was very important. So that, and then also was involved in the first air miles system that was written, sort of frequent flyer systems. British Airways would have been at the very forefront of developing those, building those again from scratch. And I remember a nice, jolly aspect of that for me was I used to be involved in going and visiting all of the partner airlines, agreeing all of the data exchanges with
very good.
them to so including getting a spin on Concorde one time to go and visit one of our partners there. So that was a nice aspect of the job. So I was there in British Airways for about 10 years. And then my daughter was born, and we decided it was time to move back to Ireland. and came back to Ireland in '96, and worked for a short while for Texas Instruments Software. Yeah, interesting, intense, short piece of work there, where I was there for about 2 years and used a lot of the experience I got in British Airways, working on a methodology for re-engineering legacy systems. So it would be using a little bit ideal for AI these days, but back then it was using more traditional tooling to basically suck all of the business logic out of legacy systems and pump it into case tools, information engineering tools. Composer, as it's called there. It's CoolGen and all that. It's been renamed as now, but it was cool case tools for regenerating the systems using as then modern technology. Very interesting piece of work. And then more particularly, then in '98, moved to Capgemini.
Okay, yeah.
And Capgemini was a great period in my life there. I worked with some really, really great people. Still in contact with a lot of them, sort of 20 plus years later. Worked in lots of different sectors, lots of different technologies. Moved up through the ranks there. Lots of different technologies, as I said, and lots of different roles. Finished up as the head of delivery in Capgemini there in 2008, and for the final 2 years as the head of delivery. And then, then as that business sort of transitioned into a different business model of Sajetti Island as it is now, still in Ireland, I moved on, and since then, I've been with Canada Life. So Canada Life, I originally went in there in 2009 as a stop. It was initially a stopgap sort of consulting gig, but here I am 16 years later. So it was, a great time in there. So initially, I went in the stopgap gig. It was to put a program that had jumped off the rails back on the rails, and then I was asked to be the European chief architect, which I did for a couple of years, and including very interesting piece of work around the integration of Irish Life into the overall GWL group. And then when I was working on that, working closely with the global CIO, who was spending a lot of time in Dublin on that integration, he came and tapped me on the shoulder one evening and asked me if I'd want to do the CIO role for Canada Life Europe. And of course, I said, that sounds great to me. And I've been doing that ever since. Yeah, fantastic role. Great company, great people, and lots of money spent on technology. So it's it's a great place to be.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Did you envision kind of that career path of moving into software delivery, head of software delivery, chief architect, CIO? Like, did you know that at the start when you moved into IT, or was it just going with the flow?
I suppose actually, if I had my time again, I would have probably been much more sort of deliberative about it. But sort of a series of fortunate events, I would say, as much as anything else. Yeah, But yeah, I guess certainly towards the latter half of my career, it's been more deliberative. But certainly in the initial stages, I was kind of scratching my head, particularly as I had a grow still for engineering.
Yeah,
and moving into software was great, and it was very interesting. But I still had a grow for engineering. But no, I mean certainly in the latter stages of my career, it's been much more about sort of working in a business and sort of solving problems using technology rather than technology per se. And really at this stage of my career, whether you're working for an engineering company or whether you're working for a software company or whether you're working for a life insurance company, it's the same difference really. You're there to to help run a business using whatever skills you have.
Yeah, exactly. And you gravitated obviously toward leadership positions. Is that something you knew you had in you? Was there anything maybe from childhood, teenage years, sports teams? Was there anything inside you that made you think, yeah, I am a leader here, and when it comes to technology, that's what I want to do. I want to lead?
I very much, sort of lead from the front in terms of, I don't do directive leading or anything like that.
Yeah.
I like to hope that my style of leading is very much around, sort of, I would never ask anybody to do something that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. And certainly in a lot of the very challenging days that we've had, delivering, our big systems transformation, which I know we'll talk about later and things like that, I would always be very strongly motivated to, be in the trenches with the people I'm working with. I mean, that would be very much my style. I would never adopt a leadership style where it's, directive or, I would always try and adopt a more sort of consultative, collegiate leadership style. And I think that works very much so, in IT. And, I've always believed, situational leadership and all that kind of stuff. I've always believed that if you're dealing with highly motivated, highly intelligent people, the best way to get the best out of them is by bringing them in.
Yeah.
And, consultative and collegiate, sort of styles. Because generally speaking, with very few exceptions, people want to do the best that they can. And the best thing you can do is to get that best out of them. And in my experience, that comes from, consulting with them and facilitating them, rather than directing them. I mean, we don't work in a sweatshop, it's very much working with, it's that highly motivated, highly intelligent people. And, you have to support them, lead them through supporting them.
As you say, player coach role.
Yeah, player coach role, exactly, yeah.
Working in such a well-established organization, obviously there's going to be resistance when it comes to moving away from legacy systems. So how do you approach change management?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, because I'd say certainly before we got the green light to push on with our future systems program, systems replacement, there was a big concern regarding the risk profile of that. There's many failed programs of that type in the industry. So we were really put through the ringer in Canada before getting that green light. There were multiple rounds of business cases that we had to put together and planning and contracting before we were able to convince the powers that be in Canada that the business case was sound and that we were had the capacity to deliver it. I definitely think that the template approach that we had to that was a good one. We did our prima facie business case, then we did our selection process, which gave us a version of the business case. And then before we actually got the green light to fully go ahead, we did what was called an initial phase, which is where we identified all of the riskiest parts of doing the implementation. And we did enough probing into each of those riskiest parts to properly understand the risks before we signed the contract. So that was certainly, obviously there were still plenty of surprises after that.
I'm sure.
But it certainly was it enabled us to anticipate some of the surprises. So, I mean, some of the key things that we really found to be key to the success of that program, and I say there's a mix of things that we actually did do and lessons learned in this, I would say. One is you really need a trustful relationship with your implementation partner. Although a good contract does help. And given the size of CLE, we went for the approach of, single provider rather than, best of breed, and one throat to choke. And certainly my experience in consulting taught me that I definitely didn't want to be in a position halfway through the project where you had multiple different parties in the room all arguing with each other and pointing at each other and saying, it's your fault, and us paying all of them.
Yeah, of course.
We decided to go down the route of a single provider, and that served us well. Fusion teams, that was really critically important, I think, to the success, and I would definitely recommend that to anybody embarking on a big systems change program. It's really all about the quality of the people you've got. I mean, I was very fortunate in leading a team of, really super competent and very highly motivated people who realised that this was the opportunity of a career, of a lifetime, working on something like this. And from day one, we focused on establishing, cross-functional, cross-company, cross-jurisdictional teams, mixing it up. There was no us and them. There was no business IT. It was we were all in this together. And, as I said, I was very fortunate to lead a team, an amazing group of people, very talented and dedicated. Now, luckily, the team was very well established before COVID turned up.
Yeah.
So we were able to sort of continue working through COVID after we had established all of these teams, really without skipping a beat. One of the other critical success factors, I would say, was home and away teams. Doing a big systems transformation like this, very hard to mix sort of oil and water of keeping the lights on, running the business, doing everything outside of a big transformation program at the same time as the transformation program. So they were pretty much home and away. Sort of the home team was the people who kept things going. The away team was everybody we took out of the business to focus on the systems transformation. So I said at its peak, between ourselves and the service provider, nearly 200 people working on it.
Yeah.
I think anytime you have a systems transformation like that, you really have to be very careful about mixing people working in BAU and people working in change, because you're inherently creating single points of dependency if you have people that are caught in that intersect. Importance of business change management. I mean, that is just super important. And that was very much one of the key criteria that we had in Canada to getting a green light, was absolutely reassuring the group CEO that we were going to have proper business change management the whole way through, because there had been experience about where you may have a technically excellent solution, but it fails because the business isn't ready for it when it's implemented. Mm-hmm. So we had a work stream running the whole way through the program, managing communications, transition planning, training, etc., and making sure that when the system turned up, everybody was ready, not just the people that were implementing it, but the whole wider organization. Easily said, hard to do. And then adherence to standard. Now, I'd say we could maybe have done a slightly better job on this, but again, easy to say, hard to do. If you're adopting a package, make sure you try and stick to the standard. Automated testing for us, an absolute game changer. I mean, obviously, we have many releases of software over the lifespan of the program, and huge. We did have a massive testing team in any case, but automating the testing was a huge enabler for us. And continuous retrospectives. You have to. I think I'd like to hope that in any project people do this, but I mean, in these big transformation programs, we have release after release after release after release after release. It is just so important. You have to keep, critically examining yourselves and challenging yourselves the whole way along the line and continuously improving.
And I'm just trying to think, because there may be listeners listening right now who are hearing legacy systems and are probably thinking, what is that? Could you explain?
Oh, yeah, legacy systems. Yeah, so legacy systems are systems which will be built in older technologies that wouldn't necessarily be very well suited.
Delphi or...
Yeah, well, I mean, the older systems that we had that we would have inherited from Canada Life Ireland would have been an old COBOL Oracle system running on Unix. So, very stable system, and it was actually, for its time, it was a very robust system, but it would just not have been the basis for the system for the business for the next 25 years. But putting AI and digitalization initiatives on top of it, and more particularly, it wasn't so much that; it was all the peripheral systems that we'd also had to build around it in order to make the Canada Life Europe business work, because it was an Irish or an Anglo system, that had been, sort of developed for Anglo-Saxon, as it's turned in the business type life and insurance business. We had to put a whole collection of systems around the edge of it to make it work in the German marketplace, and that became more and more cumbersome to administer. We ended up with this whole smorgasbord of systems to make, to keep business running. It just wasn't an extensible solution. So that's why we had to, sort of move to a, properly architected, modern collection of systems. So yeah, when I use the term legacy system, I'm talking about, systems which were written, in our previous system, Paxos's case, 40 years ago or whatever. I mean, like, there are plenty of them around. That's for sure. I mean, there's many companies, financial services in particular, who are running these legacy systems, and a huge headache for them is at some point they are going to have to bite the bullet and replace them. Yeah, because these systems are not going to run forever. I mean, people have been talking about legacy system transformation for an awfully long time, and have been keeping these systems going. But I mean, literally, the people who are familiar with these systems and have the skills to run these systems are dying out.
Yeah.
So at some point they are going to have to bite the bullet and replace them. But I do think actually one of the interesting things at the moment is that particularly with AI, there's lots of interesting augmentation that can be used now to facilitate that journey. Like if we were starting our journey again of doing the transformation program there of replacing our systems, there's just so many places I could see that we could have used AI that would have accelerated the process.
Yeah. So obviously you spotted all those gaps. Yeah. And working in financial services, there is a lot of compliance, there's a lot of regulation, there is a lot of red tape, but at the same time, you want to be innovative. You also want rapid digital progress, but you need to rally the troops. You need to get buy-in, whether it's from stakeholders or your own bosses. So how do you do that in a company like Canada Life Europe?
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly innovation is an interesting one, all right, here, because we are heavily regulated. We've got 3 different regulators for us. We've got the central bank, we've got OSFI, who are in Canada, and we've also got BaFin in Germany. So we have to be careful whenever we do any innovative type work. So, but that doesn't being heavily regulated doesn't mean that you can't be innovative. It just means that you need to be careful about where you are innovative. Clearly you can't do anything which is going to screw up your systems of record. But for for your market facing systems and particularly for your internal processes, you can absolutely have to be innovative, because if you're not, then innovation is key to survival, because every single business that's out there is managing its costs down, is looking to efficiency, is looking to innovation. If you don't innovate, then somebody else will, and you're going to be priced out of the marketplace. We do have an interesting model here in Dublin. There is a central innovation hub that we have. It's part of the Irish Life group. Obviously, Irish Life is a sister company of ours. And it would go out and check interesting new technologies and potential innovation partners. And they can act with, complete organizational agility to go and check those technologies out, those companies out. And when they identify something that is of interest, they can then bring it back to, ourselves or ILG or Irish Life or Canada Life UK.
And there obviously is a big need for digital transformations, cloud migrations. So much goes on within financial services companies. I know you mentioned it earlier there, but was that the one kind of game changer of a project that you did, or is there one that really stands out in Canada Life Europe?
Yes, so I mean, undoubtedly that was the FSS program. That was a huge program of work. At its peak, there would have been over 200 people involved in that program between ourselves and MSG Life, who were the software provider. And as I said, we had the context for that change was rapid growth of the business, sprawl of the systems, constraining growth. So it was really very much a very strong incentive to invest in those systems. Otherwise, where would the business go?
Yeah.
So massive program for us over 7 years. With that team, as I said, of about 200 people. Building the business case, we had to go multiple times to Canada to get sign off on the very substantial business case, then getting the systems initially implemented, and then going through various different progressive migrations of data, and then shutting down at the end of it more than 30 of these legacy systems at the end. It really has proven to be a game changer for the business. We're now out the far side of doing something that many of our competitors would really only starting to do and really need to do. So at the end of that transformation program, we've got a solid future-proof platform for the future. And along with our cloud-based systems, that enables us to, really drive forward on our, with our strategy to extend our reach in Germany, drive efficiency and implement AI and other technologies. And really gives us a solid foundation for building out on our IT strategy.
Brilliant. That's been some journey. And then looking to the future, emerging technologies, let's say for AI, which you just touched on, how important is that in Canada Life Europe's digital strategy going forward?
Oh, AI is absolutely fundamental to our future of the company. Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing how in such a short time AI has gone from a sort of interesting solution looking for a problem to being absolutely core to our business and IT strategy. Pretty much all of our projects now at this stage would have some form of AI angle. It's really enabled by the fact we have this nice, clean set of modern core systems. It really makes it much more straightforward to build AI solutions on top of it. I mean, the main focus that we would have at the moment would be around efficiency driving initiatives. I think that would be, pretty common in financial services and other companies at the moment in the application of AI. So we're doing a lot of work around our inbound channels support. So we're still, given the nature of the marketplace in Germany, there's still quite a bit of paper involved. But we've put in place some interesting technologies there for a lot of our inbound communications. It would be interpreting those inbound communications, routing them to the right people. And then now we're getting to the point now where we want to do straight through processing of that as well, so that basically you'll be getting communications coming in from people, being interpreted, working out what it is. Oh, this is somebody who wants to do a top-up request. This is somebody who wants to do something else, and routing it through services that will just do it there and then. Obviously enough, we need to be careful about human in the loop and all that kind of stuff to make sure that that there's appropriate controls around that. But a lot of work being done around efficiency with AI at the moment. Obviously enough, we need to be very careful about regulatory controls, like I said. But also looking into AI-driven development as well, which I think is very interesting. We're checking out a product called Cursor at the moment. To see how it could doing a proof of value on that, to see how it could assist us with doing some of the work that we have to do. I mean, there's two very interesting contexts I think that we have for that type of technology at the moment. One is we have some further major rewrites to do. We have we've replaced our core systems, and then some of our market-facing systems we also need to do a rewrite on now. Like, for example, our broker portal, still okay as a system. It's a J2E application, which was built 15 odd years ago, so it needs a good bit of rework. And we're looking to use Cursor to rewrite our quotes service on that. Not the quotes engine, that's within our new system, but the whole sort of quotes front end, which is quite a complicated UI. So we're looking to use Cursor to do a proof of value on that, to see if we can seriously accelerate the work that needs to be done to rewrite that, as well as other areas. And another sort of area where we're thinking of using Cursor or those type of GitHub type technologies is to accelerate the knowledge transfer from this new system that we've put in place, which is currently still supported by MSG Life, for us to accelerate the knowledge transfer to our team on that. Obviously enough, if you have AI tools, they're going to interpret the code. It makes it much more straightforward for developers to understand the code and pick it up more quickly than they would do if they were just having to, trying to interpret it for themselves. Also with, alongside that sort of inbound channel improvements, we've also done some work around our customer service agents as well. We've done some interesting stuff there where, inbound call, sort of interpretation of the call, speech to text interpretation, keyword analysis, creating of business cases. So really accelerating the work that the customer service agents need to do. And then, there's lots of other enhancements that we would look to do there in terms of, sort of sentiment analysis, next best action, all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure a lot of companies are looking into. I remember just next door, actually, just a couple of doors down the street in Salesforce, seeing some demos on this type of technology there about 18 months ago. That type of stuff we're looking to do, around, because a call center is a call center is a call center. But a lot of the stuff, which I'm sure a lot of companies are doing in terms of that inbound call acceleration, of creating the cases, interpreting getting the keyword analysis, creating cases in the background, sentiment analysis, next best action, all that kind of stuff. We're doing that as well. Again, driving efficiency. Internally as well, we've got, probably with like a lot of companies, we've been pretty disappointed with Copilot. It hasn't really, delivered on what we've expected. So far. It's just not sufficiently mature, I think, at the moment. So we've actually gone and, like a lot of companies, as we understand it, the group has developed a sort of internal Copilot, so which is actually working very well for us. And then, obviously enough, we are part of a global group. And AI is a big, big, big focus for GWL, which is our parent group. So there's a very active group within Europe, and then across the group between Europe and the wider group in Canada and elsewhere, to share experiences with AI, both good and bad. What the general experience has been in applying AI, sharing use cases, sharing patterns of what's worked, what hasn't worked, and in some cases, actually sharing solutions as well. Yeah. So it's a real drive at the moment, within the business to identify where there is this opportunity for pushing the business onto the next level using AI. But as I said, it's just amazing that how quickly it's gone from being interesting, but what are we going to do with it, to just absolutely fundamental to the business. And I would say we don't really have like an AI strategy per se. It is just embedded in everything. It would be hard to see now at this stage how we would do a project and it wouldn't have some element of AI
involved.
Or at least at the very least we would look to see how we could embed some element of AI in it. And then and as well as alongside all of that kind of stuff as well, obviously enough, we've also got some good data analytics capability as well, using machine learning to look to see what opportunities there are for expanding our reach in Germany as well. It's a very fragmented market in Germany, the insurance market there. So there's plenty of opportunity for us to grow. So we're using a lot of data analytics, machine learning to see how we can change our products, change our distribution network, etc., to expand our reach and grow the business.
I wonder, like even you mentioned there, AI, it's obviously rapidly changing and there's so many AI assistant tools, Cursor, GitHub, Copilot, these, what about the developers? Some developers embrace it and they want to use all of that. And there are developers out there who don't.
That's interesting.
I wonder, will those guys, do they get left behind, or is there two camps, or is there always going to be a tussle of, the developers who will embrace and those who won't?
I don't think we've actually really encountered so much of that so far. I mean, to be honest with you, I think the challenge we've had so far is we haven't been able to get everybody that wants to get onto those initiatives. I think generally speaking, people see this as being very much the future, having sort of the ability to use these tools. So they're very keen to get involved. So I haven't seen that particular reticence within the developer community. Obviously enough, there is an aspect of sort of artisan versus sort of AI, but I think you'd need to be very short-sighted to think that that it's not going to be the future. So if you don't embrace these things, you're going to get left behind. But then again, I think the nature of AI all over the place is augmentation. It's not going to replace people either in the business. It's not going to fully replace people in the business either in sort of operations or in IT. You do of course still need highly experienced, smart people in order to deliver what the business requires. But AI is undoubtedly is going to be a massive augmentation and accelerant to what needs to happen in the future.
Yeah, and obviously being in insurance, customer data and keeping that safe is so important. And as we mentioned there, AI is rapidly changing and evolving. Is the strategy around cybersecurity also evolving?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. So I would say, obviously, cybersecurity and protecting our customers' data is my most important responsibility in my role. Yeah. So, and one that I obviously enough would have to report to the board about on a regular basis as well. So it's super important. With our digitalization work, if I was to sort of wind back the clock, 7 or more years ago, there would be massive sort of reticence to use cloud-based services and more modern technologies because there was, we just work in a fairly risk-averse environment. And it was very much a philosophy of keeping all of our systems in our own data center where we control the perimeter and all that kind of stuff. However, now the thinking, because now thinking has moved on both in the industry and the regulators and within the company, it's completely turned around now. And it would just be an extraordinary idea now to think about putting one of our systems in the data center. Everything is cloud first. It's cloud first, buy before build, and service based.
Yeah.
And and I think that's largely been driven by the regulators in particular. Obviously, the CBI is just around the corner from us here. Are much more comfortable now with the idea of these cloud-based solutions and the usage of AI. Having said that, obviously things like the AI Act, the EU AI Act, and things like that mean that you do have to be super careful with what you do using AI, and things like human in the loop and appropriate controls, etc., are really very important. Cybersecurity, I mean, like most financial services company, we have a 3 lines of defense model. I mean, that's fundamental to how we work and works very well, where I would be in the first line, responsible for the operations and for the security of the data. And then the second line, would be overseeing, the risk aspects of that. And then the third line would be internal audit. So there are interlocking controls there to make sure we don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
And actually, that was my byword the whole way through when we did our FSS program, is we're not going to do anything stupid because you don't want to be in a situation where you're responsible for, screwing up the business. We've multiple layers of security, with physical and people-based security within our environments, both on the periphery and within the network, supported by access to the latest sort of threat statistics, and we do things like red team testing and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Very common with all equivalent financial services companies. And then I have a whole scorecard of measures that I would report to the board on our cyber risk profile and our risk appetite, and all of that kind of stuff that is reported on a quarterly basis. And that's obviously a topic of great scrutiny every time I go into the board to make sure that we're maintaining our risk appetite and that we're not doing anything stupid. So that covers things like vulnerability management, data protection, unsupported technology, asset management, resiliency, etc. And really key within that is keeping our technology up to date, because obviously if the technology falls behind, you're not getting any security patches, you're opening up vulnerabilities. So we've put a massive push alongside our FSS program to really get ourselves fully up to date across the board, and we're very much there at the moment.
Okay, yeah, very good. And you being an example, but there is so many Irish tech leaders out there kind of making an impact on a global scale and working for global companies. Do you think being an Irish tech leader does give you a unique edge?
I think it does. Yeah, I think it's I think because of the nature of the Irish and the Irish people, I think we're in general, I think we're very outward looking people. I think because of the nature of Ireland, we've been a pretty small place. I think and everyone appreciating we're an open economy. I think that we don't take anything for granted. I think we appreciate that. We're all invested in Ireland Incorporated, and equally when it comes to companies, we realise that nothing is a given. You have to keep fighting, otherwise, somebody else is going to take your lunch, or it's just you have to realise that things can change, and things do change. That it's. I think Irish people are particularly sensitised to that because of the fact that the Irish economy has been through certainly people of my generation already have been through hard times, ups and downs. So you realise that nothing is forever, and you have to fight to make sure that you keep things in a good place. So I think certainly, I think it's. I think Irish people are particularly sensitised to that. And if you were in a sort of a mega economy or a mega company, maybe you're that little bit one step removed from that. Actions have consequences. Yeah. So, I mean, I also think our Irish culture is a positive one in business. I think the degrees of informality that Irish people have are, it's, but at the same time, obviously very focused on getting things done. Is a very healthy one. I think I think it works very well. I mean, I've worked in the UK, I've worked in Ireland, I've obviously worked with a lot of people in Canada and the US and Germany, and I think it's a very positive working culture in Ireland. Certainly my experience. And also I'd say in Canada Life Europe, where sort of 50% of the people are Irish and 50% of the people are German. I think that's a very interesting sort of cocktail of cultures. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to get into too much sort of typecasting of people, but so there's a very interesting mix of cultures, and I think it's a great result. And also, of course, we get lots of interesting beers as a result of that as well.
Yeah. Well, no, it has been brilliant, and obviously the Dublin hub for Canada Life Europe has been a huge success.
Yeah.
What does the future look like? For Canada Life Europe?
For Canada Life Europe? Oh, well, very much. We're looking to, sort of exploit the capabilities of the systems that we've put in, the new systems we've put in to expand our reach into the German marketplace. I mean, the German marketplace is very fragmented. There's about 80 different providers there.
Wow.
And it's a huge economy, absolutely huge economy. And we're very well established. Canada Life Europe was established in 2000. They're from a standing start. It's a big success story for Ireland Incorporated. Sort of said it was set up on the side of Canada Life Ireland with no policies at all on day one. And now we have about 600,000 policies and about 550,000 customers. 800 people, 3 different offices, about a third, Dublin and Frankfurt and Cologne. And we're very firmly established and we're not going anywhere, that's for sure, in Germany. So, I mean, next for Canada Life Europe is it's expanding our reach. It's looking for opportunities to grow the business, looking for opportunities to expand our network, and our distribution network, that is, and expand our product set. It's who knows in the future as well. I mean, Canada, it's Canada Life Europe is synonymous with Canada Life Germany at the moment, but sure, who knows in the future? Like whether there'll be opportunities elsewhere within mainland Europe as well. Yeah.
Okay, so the future looks bright.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've had great success, but I'm sure obviously a lot of scars as well, a lot of transformations, projects, a lot of change.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wish you learned earlier in your career or adopted earlier?
Yeah. I would say certainly one thing would be is, trust your gut more, I think, and be prepared to take calculated risks. I think it's very true. It's a truism, but it is the truth. That you regret the things that you don't do, I think, more than the things that you do.
Yeah. No, definitely. Well, we'll leave it on that.
Right. Thanks
Pat,
very much.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks very much.
It's been great to have you.